You want to be able to sell to a note buyer like myself, gain some capital in your business, deploy that into the market by buying more properties, getting more liquid, and then having another second note and deed of trust that is paying you money every single month. Why not do both? This is how we do that. We're going to use very easy numbers, and you have a piece of paper. I would jot this down. So we have our mortgage, easy numbers, at $150,000. That's our sub-2 mortgage, okay? This sub-2 mortgage has about a 3% interest rate because it's a VA loan. Can we do creative deals on VA and FHA? Yes. So we see the equity because the ARV for this $150,000 sub-2 mortgage is $300,000. So we have traditional equity, we have equity in terms, and we have equity in interest rate. Do you need all three all the time? No. It all depends on your exit plan. Never take down a deal, in my opinion, without having an exit plan in a transitioning market. I have a lot of people that are coming to me now having a hard time selling their fix and flips, having a hard time because they got the deal at a great discount, but they didn't really plan to pivot during this market. So always have an exit plan. $150,000 sub-2, it's worth $300,000. So we take down this property with the seller. Let's just say it needs a lipstick repair of $15,000 to $20,000, or let's say the $15,000 and $20,000 is the amount that the sub-2 mortgage needs to be reinstated. They fell behind, they got divorced, they got sick, they couldn't make those payments. So in exchange for that deed, the seller says, you know what, Rochelle, if you can reinstate my property for that $20,000 that I do not have, so I don't go into foreclosure, I will give you the deed to my property. We have found a solution for them when they are in pain to reinstate their credit and to reinstate them with the lender. Does the lender care who's paying on the mortgage? No. The lenders just want your money. They do not care as long as the payments are current. So this is how the acquisition happened, is we were able to reinstate their property $20,000, take it over the sub-2 mortgage at $150,000, knowing that the ARV is $300,000. So here is my exit plan. I am going to wrap this mortgage. What is a wrap? Whenever you guys think of a wrap, actually think of like a hug. So we have our $150,000 mortgage. We're going to wrap that to a homestead buyer. What is a homestead buyer? A homestead buyer are people like us that are self-employed, people that have the income but not the credit. Maybe they went through a divorce, but they have good income, but they can't qualify for traditional credit. Tons of people out there that are homestead buyers that have no idea that they have the opportunity of home ownership. So when we wrap to homestead buyers, they understand that they cannot go for traditional credit through Chase or Wells Fargo. Are they willing to pay a higher price for the property and a higher interest rate to have home ownership? 10,000% they are. Home ownership is the goal of the American people, right? Is the goal of the biggest investment that people make. So generally these homestead buyers already have the down payment. How are you going to find homestead buyers? Who's in your network? Who's the loan officer in your network that all of the people that don't qualify that they can send to you? Are you a part of seller finance networks? It's as easy as putting a picket sign in the front of the home saying no credit needed, give us a call. So many ways to lead generate for homestead buyers. Back to my point, they will pay a higher purchase price and a higher interest rate. How do we find that interest rate? Do we just normally say it's 6%, so we're going to do 6%? No, we're going to wrap it higher. We follow something called the affordability of the economy. Affordability is amazing for note buyers because if the interest rates are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which they will be, we can wrap at 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, which is crazy. We follow the affordability of the economy. Now, if we're playing devil's advocate for our business and we're saying, oh my gosh, we can charge a 10%, I'm going to pay attention to my Frank Dodd safe compliance. I'm going to be in line with all of those, and I'm going to vet my homestead buyer. You have to vet your homestead buyer in order to sell your note. So having an RMLO, which is a registered mortgage loan officer, that I can say, JJ is my homestead buyer. Please vet him for me that he can qualify for this mortgage that I am creating at a higher purchase price and a higher interest rate. The RMLO is going to come in, he's going to vet JJ, and he's going to say he's approved. His credit isn't too great. It's about a 620, but he has the income. Great. I have that piece of paper. That's part of my paper stacking. Part of my other paper stacking is making sure that all my disclosures for sub 2 are done. Okay. So now we know my ARV is $300,000. So what can I create out of this? We know that JJ can afford this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm taking over a mortgage at 150. My ARV is 300,000. I am going to wrap this at $250,000. So I'm going to sell it to JJ for $250,000. Could I have gone higher? Yes, you could have gone higher, but I like to be below the ARV because nothing makes note buyers happier than knowing that their paper is secured by a ARV that's higher than the paper, right? They know we're going into a pivoting market. So they say, I own $250,000 against an asset that's $300,000. Already your note buyer's excited about this opportunity. So $250,000. This is the best structure of knowing how to create two notes out of that $250,000. Now this is all disposition. So the $250,000, the first note is going to be at 72%. So 72% of $250,000 is $180,000. That $180,000 interest rate for that is going to be 9.95%, which is higher than where we're at. What's our payment on that? That's about $1,572.98. What's our second note? Our second note is the balance. So what do we have left over from, we take 180 from 250,000, simple math, we have $70,000 left over. That becomes our second note. Our second note is going to also be at 9%, which makes our payment $563.24. That means we have a first payment of about $1,600 and a second payment of about $600 that equal the $250,000 note. We wrap them at two different interest rates. Now, the first note needs to include insurance, taxes, and the servicing costs, which means the person that makes those automatic payments every month. That's going to total about $250. Why is that in the first note? Because I am planning on selling the first note. So if the taxes adjust, if the insurance adjusts, does it adjust on my second note that I'm keeping? No. Who gets that cost? The note buyer. Plus the servicing, he also handles those costs. He's paying for me getting my $600 check every month and for him owning that first note. So our first note, after we add the taxes and insurance, come out to about $1,822.98. Is that a feasible payment at this point in time in this industry? Absolutely. Okay, so we're using simple numbers, for properties around $250,000. So my first note, what I've done is I vetted JJ through an RMLO. I hired Rochelle to paper stack. So all of my disclosures are there, all of the transparency there. All of the post-close documents are there for sub-2s, managing the communication, the due on sale clause, the insurance, all of the worries that everybody has for sub-2. And I am going to sell this note to a note buyer. If you have paper stacked the right way and vetted your homestead buyer the right way, you can get up to 85 and 90% of that note value. So let's say that we sell this 85%, right? You guys are going to be working with me, 85%. So we have a note value of $180,000 and we're going to sell it to me for 85%. So I'm going to pay you $153,000 for your $180,000. And people are like, why would I do that? I'm selling at a discount. Because you are going to get that all cash to deploy back into the market. This is about doing this over and over and over again. They are willing to pay you all cash because they didn't have to acquire the deal. They didn't have to vet the deal. They didn't have to do anything. So these are high-level investors that understand the process of documentation that understand I am just going to have all you investors in my portfolio and you guys do the work. I got the cash. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a CPA, or I'm an investor, and I'm going to pay you that. So what JJ is going to do with that $150,000, he's either going to hang on to it or deploy that into the market or use it on marketing costs, whatever his business needs at that time. Did you guys forget about the second note? The second note for $70,000 is paying you $563.24 every single month. The first of the month, 563. The second month, 563. How many 563 notes do you need to create the lifestyle that you want? Is that attainable in a year? Yes. All that second note does is pay you cash flow. So I want you guys to see the power of becoming the bank. Notes never lose value. They are secured against an asset. You have recourse. There's a note in a deed of trust or a promissory note that is recorded on the property as a lien. So if some were to default, you would be able to recoup that against an asset that is worth more, right? Because it's strategically done the right way. So you're sitting in a beautiful place to create cash flow and capital in your business by taking down properties in a creative strategy like Sub2, by looking at equity differently, by looking at equity through traditional interest rates and by terms, and knowing that you can take down these deals, find a homestead buyer that will be making these payments and selling that note to gain capital. So how are the payments being made? JJ is my homestead buyer. We set up the servicing. He does the same thing like he would do if it were Chase. He's going to get a letter in the mail. It's going to say, listen, you're no longer paying Rochelle. You're now paying Bob. It's the same amount, just we've already adjusted all of that, and where you're paying, you're just paying Bob the same amount. Nothing changes for him. He still owns the home. He's just changed who he's paying to, but my $563 remains the same. This is what we call impound accounts. So it'll be broken up into two payments. The $1,600 will go to whoever holds that note, and that 563 will come to me for 30 years. Do notes normally liquidate between 10 and 50 years? Absolutely. Could he go and refinance it, do things like that? That's great, because what have I written into the note? Let's say this first note buyer that bought your note at $153,000, he's probably going to liquidate within 10 years. You know what I've written into that note? A first right of refusal. So what have I done for myself? The person that bought this note says, I know I bought this note from Rochelle, but I'm going to liquidate it and sell it at a discount again. But in the note and deed of trust, it says the first right of refusal. So what happens? The note comes back to me and the note buyer says, hey, Rochelle, it's been like 5 years. I've decided to sell the note. You have a first right of refusal. Would you like to buy this note before I send it out into the open market? I've created the revolving door over and over and over again to where I now, because I've acquired so many of these, I'm getting calls from investors that will say, hey, do you want to take this note back? I can look at the property and I can buy these notes back. Okay. It is a very high level type of investing, but can anybody that takes advantage of creative finance do these things? Yes. A lot of times the eyes get a little glazed when I'm teaching this, but I want you to see the power of having this exit plan as a strategy as you're going into this market and knowing you can gain capital and cash flow at the same time, as long as you have the ability to paper stack the right way. The abilities and what you could do with this is so profound to be able to maximize creating wealth if this is something that you guys are interested in it. This is something that we do at Constant Close. This is part of what I teach, but it's an amazing way, like I said, to create capital and cash flow at the same time.